Today's media conference is another one done for further public outreach in order to let all of our residents to know of and to be aware of both road and future infrastructure projects that are going into the spring and summer of 2019, as well as discussing some upcoming projects going into 2020. These significant road and infrastructure improvements are both a needed and proactive approach from the city to replace or reconstruct in what is becoming very aged and worn out infrastructure that needs to be addressed. These projects are needed because of both long-term usage and previous budget delays in having them brought forward for completion. These projects include street improvements, utility improvements, and increased bike and pedestrian additions and accommodations throughout the city. We have also been in contact with all of our state representatives to let them know what is happening, as well as our asking that the city of Wausau to be included for the 2020 state budget for help from the state in offsetting the costs involved for some of these projects, especially since many of the mandates involved in these projects, such as the sewer and wastewater treatment plant and the water utility facilities, are now required from the state for us to be in compliance with. We, the city, know that with reconstruction of road and infrastructure projects, there can be a significant disruption and traffic delays within the city. And as we have done in the past few years, we want to inform the residents of Wausau as early as possible, and as we continue to move forward with further continuous updates in order to help our residents to be prepared for the work that will be done here in 2019. And now I'd like to introduce our Department of Public Works Director, Eric Littman, who will address the upcoming infrastructure projects coming later on this year, including some detour maps.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to briefly go through the press conference announcement. There was a list of projects, and those are not all of our projects that we're doing, but they are the most significant ones that will have the most impact within the city and the general public. The first one will be Town Line Road Reconstruction Project. That'll be from Grand Avenue up it'll be east to the city limits. We have collaborated with Marathon County on that project, and they will be taking it from the city limits east out to Camp Phillips Road. So they will be reconstructing that portion, and we will be reconstructing the portion within the city. I would like to say thanks to Jim and Kevin and Marathon County for the collaboration on that project. We do have a detour map up here posted. It's the far one. So we wanted to get the announcement out for people to start thinking about this summer. That road will be closed all summer, and that detour route will be set up beginning in the spring through fall. So the next project will be South First Avenue Reconstruction Project. That is going to be from West Thomas Street north to Stewart Avenue. That again would be a full reconstruction project: water, sewer, stormwater utilities, curb, gutter, sidewalks. That will have a detour route. That detour route will be shared also with our next project, which is Thomas Street. And so that is one of our major river crossings that will be closed for the summer. So there will be some significant disruption, and there'll also be some additional traffic, mainly on Stewart Avenue due to that detour. Thomas Street Reconstruction Phase 2 project. This is Phase 2. Phase 1 was done in 2017. This project is scheduled to begin this spring as well. It is a full reconstruction project as well. All three of these projects not only improve the street, but they improve bicycle and pedestrian accommodations throughout the city on these main arterial routes. They improve our underground infrastructure. Our continued effort to remove lead from our water lines as well. That is part of these projects also. Moving on to some of the local street projects, we have three of them. We have North 2nd Street from McClellan to Grant, North 1st Street, Short Street, just north to the dead end. That map on the far right side and also in the handout shows the location of those short stretches of street. Those are full reconstruction streets as well. And the third one is South 7th Avenue from Pardee to Garfield. We do have a couple of unique projects. One is the river crossing lines for the wastewater utility. We have a map over here showing the location of those. Currently, we have two locations of siphon lines crossing the river carrying wastewater. Both of them carry about 1 to 1.5 million gallons of wastewater on average per day. They were initially constructed in 1939. so they are beyond their design life. The current construction requirements are that for each of those lines, as we replace them, we'll have to replace them with 2 lines for redundancy. This is in case one has an issue, we can divert to the other one, or if we have to do maintenance on one, we can divert to the other one without having to do bypass pumping or some alternative method. Those are some unique projects, and they will begin this spring as well. We look at our traditional asphalt overlay and seal coat projects that'll be happening throughout the city. We have those highlighted on the far right map over there, or on your right over there as well. Some of the overlay projects will depend on the budgets and the bids that come in, but right now those streets are highlighted in red on that map and on your handout for what's proposed. We continue to work with the DOT on the Highway 51, 52 relocation, rerouting. We also working with the developer on that as well. Kind of the next step on that project is there will be a public involvement information meeting held mid to late March. Once that gets, a date is set and a time for that and a location, it will be published on that project. We will have the riverfront completion and opening this spring too. That's very exciting. That riverfront will be open for the summer. So the last couple of projects I'd like to mention are the water and wastewater facilities that have been ongoing for a couple of years now. We've done some facility planning with those projects. We are into design on the wastewater plant, and that's moving forward quite well. The water plant, we're kind of at a decision point right now, holding some public meetings, and where the location of that water plant. Is it going to stay in the same location, or is it better to move it? And so those decisions are coming up as well.
And you know, in addition to that last part, I just want to toss something out there in regards to moving the wastewater treatment plant, or water treatment plant, excuse me. Something I want to add for residents to think about. Upgrades to the water treatment plant are required about every 30 to 40 years. These are multi-generational projects, and honestly, it is in the best long-term interest of the city and the users to look at all of the options involved. The current site has challenges moving into the future, specifically minimal space for additional improvements that may be needed in the future date due to more state regulations. Now I ask you, is it in the city's interest to spend $30 million now and not have enough space for needed future improvements? Or is it smarter to spend $40 million now knowing we have a better protected water source and treatment and we can handle future regulations? We need to start looking long-term, 50+ years when it comes to these types of projects. And that is part of that future vision of moving the city of Wausau forward. And at this time, if anybody had any questions for either one of us, fire away.
Can either of you speak to the timeline on?
Can we get you a microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is just for our public access.
Yep, and I'm sorry, and I can introduce myself as well. My name is Ben Meyer from WJFW.
Hi, Ben.
Hey there. Can you speak on the timeline as to when an option will be selected on the 2 options for water treatment?
We do anticipate, well, we are gonna have another public information meeting on March 6th up in NTC. Yep, at 6:30. And after that, we'll prepare all that information. We do anticipate coming to the city council in March to present that information and for a decision.
Brian from WSAW. I'm wondering, the winter weather, has that impacted any projects or any timelines as of yet? You know, any of that weather affected anything?
Not really. Well, hopefully winter will be done earlier than last year, but no, at this time it really hasn't impacted too much yet. It's just basically letting folks know in advance. We've done this before the last couple of years to get that message out that, you know, folks, some major improvements and things are coming. The infrastructure really needs to be replaced, to get folks prepared for those detours or whatever is needed, because it's going to be an inconvenience. There's no getting around that. But I always like to say, when this stuff is done, it's going to be great. So you got to look at it in that positive sense.
Mike Lynchner, WSAU Radio, if I can remember where I work. I actually got a couple questions. First off, when it comes to road projects, I know the city of Schofield and the village of Weston are looking to present a united front on Grand Avenue south of Wausau. I know that's out of your jurisdiction, but is that something Wausau would like to be a part of, or maybe sign the letter on as well to get those improvements going? Because as it stands right now, those snowplows can't even clear effectively because of the bumps on Grand Avenue.
Yeah, we had a discussion with the DOT this past summer about Grand Avenue and what their schedule was for that. It sounded like it was at least a decade out, and so, we weren't necessarily pleased to hear that, so, but we did put our concerns in on that. If, we're more than happy to work with other communities as well, especially on Grand Avenue. We know that within when 10 years comes around, that condition of that pavement is gonna be poor, and we will continue to put more and more maintenance costs into it to try to maintain it, so.
And then as far as the water treatment plant goes, you mentioned relocating it is gonna be an extra $10 million at this point. Do you know where that money would come from? Would that be borrowed? Would that be passed on to users as part of another rate increase, which is already going up?
Right, it would be borrowed through the Safe Drinking Water Loan Program. So whichever project is decided by the city council will be borrowed through the Safe Drinking Water Loan Program. If we borrow the 30 million, we're looking at about a $6 a month increase for the average residential user. If we borrow the 40 million, it comes out to about $7.50 a month for the average residential user. So, we will present that information to the city council and move forward with any information we have, and hopefully they'll make a decision so we can begin our design process. Both of those projects right now are currently scheduled to begin construction in 2020.
Go ahead.
Thank you for either of you, or maybe even Scott knows better than me. I don't know. You had mentioned replacing lead service lines as part of some of these projects with infrastructure improvements. Can you talk about that process with dialoguing with homeowners if they have private lead service lines? If you have any estimate of, or maybe how many lead service lines you might be able to replace in conjunction with homeowners as part of these projects where you're doing road work?
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but as we move into spring with these projects, we will again send out notices to those residents along those project routes, letting them know, because we still have those dollar amounts that were contributed to us from the DNR as a forgivable loan for the replacement of the private side. And so again, we will reach out to them again this spring with that information. We already do have some people on the private side that have come forward with us. Obviously, our side of the water service, we will replace all of them and remove them. I guess this is a great venue for that, because I'd really encourage all of them to take advantage of the funds that we have available to them right now to remove the lead from our water system.
As the governor had mentioned, this is a year of water treatment, so.
And if I can ask just one more, and if I missed this number somewhere, or if it's in a budget that I didn't look closely enough at, do you have a rough number off the top of your head on what the budget is for improvement plans generally in the city of Wausau in 2019? I'm guessing we're talking in the tens of millions of dollars.
Correct. The dollar amount, I guess for the Town Line Road project, construction estimate is about $4 million. South First Avenue, we're looking at about $4.5 million. Thomas Street reconstruction, about $3.2 million. Those are the engineer estimates at this point. The other infrastructure projects, I could get that information to you on the details, but those are the major projects. And then I think the water and wastewater. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Well, you're making it too easy, come on. Okay, go ahead.
So both the water and the wastewater would be scheduled 2020 projects, not this year?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then all the streets that we discussed today will be this year though?
2019.
In 19.
Okay.
Yes, they will begin this spring.